So, in this episode of Teacher Tools, I'm going to talk to you about how I use Google Plus communities with my students. The goal of this is to really help you think about as you're trying to figure out how to bring more technology into your classroom, how you're trying to use more digital resources for your students, potentially keep everything organized. This is an actual look inside my community, so I will be kind of scrolling and shooting in a strategic way to make sure all of the students' names remain private. So if you want to set up a Google community, I would just go ahead and Google how to set up Google communities. It is fairly simple and it's free. So I've used this. Really, I found that the students are fairly comfortable with it. It is user friendly. We use Google Drive to submit all of their assignments, so everything just works together really well. The other thing that I do, and this is going to have to be up to you when you really know your community or know how talk to your administration, feel this out. Don't just dive in and do this. So I invite parents to this group as well. The reason that I do that is this way parents can see what's happening in the class. They can see what kind of artworks being created. They can ask me questions within this group, and they can also really see what their child is creating. But again, you need to make sure that you are comfortable and kind of figure out your own guidelines and things on that. So one thing that I do, so my students have access to whatever rubrics we're using. I just share the link within Google Drive and then they copy and paste it. So I'm going to go ahead and open one up. So what I have them do is they make the link so that they use my email address so that only I can both view and edit. So that way their classmates can see it, but their classmates cannot edit. So they photograph their work or they scan their work, and then that's the first thing that they upload into a Google Drive document. So it's right there. So you're going to see them working on it in person. You're going to see them creating it. But this is a nice way that you can work on also grading pieces from home without carrying everything around. And I also find that it just helps keep things really nice and organized. So there's a digital record of the information. So the next thing that students have to do, so this is one of the rubrics that we use. This is one focusing on drawing issues. So they first need to highlight the ones that they think that they're using the most. I sometimes will include questions in here that they need to answer. And then they go through the sections of the rubric and they just go ahead and highlight where they think they fall on the rubric. And then they share that link. So they post that link in the Google Plus group. And so that's when it shows up to me. I open that link up and come right into this document. So the student doesn't actually have it set up right now. So I can't comment or edit, but when they have it set up correctly, then I go in, I choose a different color to highlight so we can still see where the student and I agree and where the student and I disagree. And then I also will type comments right into this document and then go ahead and enter their grade into the grade book. The other thing that I do, so after I've graded the piece, I go ahead and give it a +1. So that does two different things. One, it sends a notification to the student, and I've told them once I +1 it, that means that I've commented, I've graded, so now they can reopen it and look at it. It also makes it really easy for me, and as I said, I'm not going to do a lot of scrolling because I'm working on, I want to make sure to keep the students' names private. As I'm scrolling through here, I can really quickly see which ones I have given a +1 to and which ones I haven't. So it's like a checklist for what I need to dive back into. The other thing, so that's me, so that's fine, so you can see that. The other thing that's really nice is students can comment to each other. So sometimes I make that a requirement, sometimes it's just up to them. Occasionally I'll ask them to write a specific question up here. So here the student posted this piece. So here's another version of the velocity prompt piece. Is it good enough to submit for homework this week? I tried to create a greater sense of motion through mark making. So this is a piece that she's posted several times and continued to make adjustments and is now asking more specific questions. So when it's an in progress piece, I do ask them to write a specific question. Why are they posting it? What do they want feedback on? That helps me, but it also really helps their classmates give them feedback as well. So that's how all the work is stored in here. The wonderful thing is it's stored in here until you choose to delete it out. So I actually just make a new community every year. So I have this history of what students have done. You can also just search by student name. So if you want to narrow it down to student name, you can go ahead and do that. You as the moderator, you have the power. You can make it so that you have to approve posts. I don't do that because I don't really have an issue with my students, but depending on your student body and how you want to deal with this, you can make it that you have to approve a post before it shows to the rest of the group. So that would be totally fine. You can also delete posts at any point. So if someone posts something that you don't think is appropriate, you can go ahead and pull that down. So you are the one that has control over all of this. Your students don't. So this has been one of my favorite tools in really organizing student work, organizing how they're grading it. I have a different community for each class. So not all of my art students are in one group. It is grouped by class. And it's also just, it's making the students get in the practice of photographing their work, submitting the work. It gives you a really nice digital record of it, as well as everything is saved in here. So if a student questions their grade, if a parent questions their grade, we can go right back in. It is date stamped, so we know if the student turned their work in late. I can see the comments that the student wrote, all of the comments that I wrote are saved. So it's also a really nice tool in that aspect, where when I used to do it on paper, so I would comment on the rubric, but then the rubric went back to the student. And so if questions arose, then I didn't normally have that documentation in front of me. So this is a really nice tool for all of that. And I love having parents in this as well. It's really, really taken down on questions about due dates, on why a student's grade is what their grade is, because it's really, really open and transparent what is going on, and it just helps the parents feel more connected and like I'm totally open and not hiding anything from them. So Google Communities might be something that you want to check out. There are a lot of different platforms that you can be using. This is just I've used this for 2 years now, and have just found it meets all of the needs that I need it to and that my students need it to. So for now, this is what we're sticking with.